Hello, everybody. This is Aaron Hinds. This is the lesson plan that I was hoping to deliver on campus last weekend, but due to some gastrointestinal issues, wasn't there. So I am recording it. Do the best I can to simulate actually having students or people in the audience, but this is kind of awkward talking to my computer in my office downstairs. But anyway, this is a side lesson that I created on the local ecosystems and biodiversity in Iowa. At this point, the students should be familiar with the vocabulary, although we're going to review it, um, along with what ecosystems are, their importance, what conservation is, and um, how ecosystems are connected through the food webs where the sun's energy, leads to the plants, grasses growing, those are eaten by herbivores, carnivores, etc. So they should have a pretty solid grasp of a lot of this stuff. This is kind of a little bit of a side, kind of a fun unit where they get to learn more about the specific ecosystems that are in our home state here. So this gives them a chance to apply those knowledge and skills and to also work on a reading strategy on a conservation article about the wild turkey. So I will begin now, I guess. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. How are we all doing today? It's good. It's good. Everybody have a good weekend. Yes. Awesome. That is good to hear. I did too. So, somebody kind of give me a synopsis. It's a good word, synopsis, or a rundown. What have we been studying lately? Very good. Yes, we've been studying ecosystems, biodiversity, the organisms that inhabit those ecosystems, and how they are all connected and related to each other through the food webs, energy transfer, and so forth. Very good. So we're going to kind of take a little bit of a little detour today and kind of explore ecosystems, but a little closer to home. So if you guys just imagine right now, you just sit in the backseat of your mom and dad's car, driving down the highway, outside of a lot of corn and beans, and probably a lot of hog confinements and some cattle. What are you seeing out there? Good. Yes. A lot of grass, a lot of grasslands. So what do we call those grasslands when they're in the Mississippi Valley? I know we touched on it in the past, but yep, those are called prairies when they're around here. So in the basically in the Midwest between the Missouri, Mississippi River, and down through, grasslands are generally referred to as prairies. So new little fun fact. And what else do you see? Yep, forests. We don't have as many forests in Iowa, or at least in this part of Iowa, but forests are definitely a very important aspect of the ecosystems here in our home state. So all right, now let's get a little bit more challenge on this question. Now, do all these ecosystems are they important to us in any way outside of being really pretty, providing nice scenery? hmm Yeah, they give us a ton of different activities we can enjoy, and they are critical to the health of our environment as a whole, and to sorry, the cat's walking under my feet. Um, yeah, to the health of our planet. Sorry. All right. So does anybody know? So we got our ecosystems, right? And natural resources. What's it called when we try to understand, evaluate, and figure out ways to protect them so they don't go the way of extinction, like so many other animals, plants, and different species in our world? Good. Yeah, we talked about it last time. Conservation, absolutely. Conservation at its core is finding ways to protect our natural resources from human greed and depletion of them. So good. All right. Well, today we're going to dig a little further into conservation, and we're also going to got a fun reading activity along with some notes we're going to go over real quick first. So if everybody wants to look at the board, don't have a board, but look at the board, and or you can pull up your PowerPoints on your computer. Sorry, I got all the animals down here now. Go away, bud. All right. So, Iowa biodiversity. All right, so let's take a look at the vocabulary. So, forest. What's a forest without looking up there? It's an area dominated by trees and undergrowth. Very good. In a prairie, we just talked about this not even 5 minutes ago. hmm Prairies are large open areas of grassland, particularly in the Mississippi River Valley. Ecosystem. We should all know this. hmm It's a biological community of interacting organisms and their physical environment. Good, good. Now, what's biodiversity? hmm Variety of life in the world or a particular habitat or ecosystem. Why is biodiversity important? Yep, yeah. Biodiversity gives us a health gauge of our environment, and when the biodiversity starts to, what do we want to say, fade or become depleted, and entire ecosystems and worlds can collapse. You guys read about the honeybee? Yeah. If the honeybee is to were to go extinct, it could mean the end of human life on this planet because they serve as the major pollinator for virtually all crops and plants, especially here in North America. Now, what's flora? Yep. Flora are the plants of a particular region or habitat. Yep. And fauna? Exactly. Fauna are the animals in those regions or habitats. And finally, conservation was what's your definition? Good, good. Prevention of wasteful uses of our natural resources. Very good, guys. So we will continue on here. Sorry, I'm using this because I don't have a whiteboard that I can refer to my notes. All right, so Iowa prairies. Before European settlement, so we're talking 200 years or so ago, Iowa had the largest surface area of any state in the country of pure prairies. Currently, due to, in general, the greed of humans and our desire to update and make everything modern and cities and things like that, we only have less than 0.01% of the native prairies, native, so the ones that were originally here, left in our state. We still have prairies and we've done a fairly good job of replanting some, but we do not have much of the originals left. Good. So our prairies formed about 10,000 years ago after the retreat of the glaciers. So if you guys were to look at the map, you see you go up around the north part of Iowa, Spirit Lake, Okoboji, that area. That's where the glaciers really gouge. That's where they form the lakes. Where we're at is towards the south end of it. Excuse me. And so what it did is it created a really good rich earth till, which is why we have a lot of prairies. So prairies are predominantly in Iowa going to be in your northern, western, and central portions of the state. So if you kind of divide the state diagonally, that half, the upper half, is going to be where you find most of the prairies. And that's due to the warm, dry climate and makes it ideal for the prairie grasses that call it home to grow and do well. So once established, prairie grasses are very resilient with deep, dense roots that prevent invading trees and shrub from growing. That's why when you look at a big prairie, like here around town, if you were to drive down by Owego, Luton, just south of town, you look out there, you don't see much for trees. The Our native grasses in Iowa do a pretty good job of choking out everything but themselves. So, yep. So can anybody, this little side question here, anybody know the name of the government program that pays farmers to plant native prairies back instead of farming ground? Absolutely, yeah. It's called CRP. You know what it stands for? Bonus points here. Crop Reserve Program. Yep. So basic gist of it is a farmer has ground that he doesn't want to farm, is extra, doesn't have time to farm, or just doesn't yield real great. Contacts the DNR for the state of Iowa. They come out and they analyze the soil and they offer him payments of X amount of dollars per year over a 10-year contract to plant and maintain native prairies for the health of the our ecosystems as a whole, but also as a place for many of the animals that a lot of the community that hunts enjoy. If you look at my shirt, pheasants are a very popular animal that requires grasslands to be successful. Good. Have any of you ever tried to dig up prairie grass? I did this not too long ago. Yeah, it has insanely thick, dense roots. And there's a reason why they used it for sod houses back in the colonial periods and when people started moving west. So it's good. Now, if we go to this next slide, you got some examples of native plant species in the Iowa prairies. You got little blue stem, big blue stem, very similar plants. Obviously, one's big. Big blue stem can often get close to as tall as me, around 6 foot. Little blue stem, more waist height. You also got Indian and code grass, switchgrass, side oats, and a wide variety of wildflowers like compass plant, black-eyed Susan, lead plants, cone flowers, and the purple prairie clover. All right. Anybody know what an invasive species is? About this a little bit, not long ago. Invasive species that were not originally in a particular ecosystem, but through faults, accidents, purposeful, they've been introduced. And if the ecosystem fits them well, they will often thrive and sometimes even push out some of the native plants and animals. So, guys, think of any grasses that you think or anything that might be invasive for Iowa? I know this is a tough question, but you got the red canary grass, reed canary grass. So when you guys drive down, and you look out in the grasslands, it's the stuff that's just a beautiful, basically yellow like this folder color almost, and it's super thick. But despite it being an invasive species, generally birds, pheasants, quail, things like that love it. So another one is the Japanese honeysuckle flowering plant. Again, it does well due to the climate and also seems to be a very popular with bees, hummingbirds, things of that nature as well. So good. Now we got native wildlife species. This is a little more interesting. I mean, plants are cool. My dad loves plants, but not my cup of tea. I'm more into the animals and birds. So some native mammals of Iowa. Now you see native, and some of you are going to say, "Well, what the heck? I've never seen a bison or an antelope or a wolf." Well, there's a reason. We pushed them out by building, changing their habitats, getting rid of grasslands. We forced a lot of them westward. But what you'll see on here is you got deer, both whitetail and mule deer. Currently, Iowa doesn't have mule deer. Like I just said, we put them out. Bison, antelope's another one we don't have here anymore. You have to get over towards western Nebraska to get into those. Coyotes, red fox, prairie dogs, moles, and shrew. Yep. And birds, you got meadowlarks, red-tailed hawks, owls, robins, sage, sage grouse. All right. Guys, we just kind of I just touched on this. I got a little ahead of myself. But you guys see anything on that list that no longer can find in Iowa outside of like a private farm or petting zoo? Yeah. Wolves are gone. Bears. We used to have black bears also used to venture down into Iowa for quite often. Now they are very few and far between. Mountain lions is another one. It used to be pretty plentiful around here, not really anymore. You also got the antelope and elk. We used to have a pretty strong population of elk before the westward expansion of the colonial Europeans. So let's see here. What's somebody tell me an invasive species in the prairies, animal wise? It's a bird that is exceedingly well and is also very popular in terms of our as a natural resource for hunters. Look at the shirt again. That's why I wore it. Pheasants. Uh, Anybody know how pheasants got introduced? Where they're from, actually? Who knows where the ringneck pheasant actually is native to? Exactly. Chinese ringneck pheasant is their technical term. And they were introduced initially accidentally. There was a bird farm over around Cedar Rapids that was destroyed in a windstorm, and birds got out and they did really well. DNR state officials figured out that they did well without really pushing other birds out. So they introduced them throughout the state, and they are the most popular bird species that you can hunt here in Iowa. So, all right, move on to the next one here. So for reptiles and amphibians, you guys think of any out before I click on the slides here? Yep, turtles, garter snakes, bull snakes. Also got the northern prairie skink and the western hognose snake, which you can see in one of the pictures here. And insects, you got spittlebugs, ants, grasshoppers. Anybody think of any other insects that are common in Iowa? It's the middle of summer right now. There's bound to be one or two you can think of. Yeah, gnats, mosquitoes, crickets, ants. So very good. Very good. All right. So moving on, we're going to move into Iowa forests. Now I know a lot of this will be kind of overlap from what we've done in the past when we studied forests, but Iowa's got some unique aspects of its forest. So let's dig into it a little bit here. Like I said earlier, prairies are normally northwest, central Iowa. Well, forests are generally found mostly in southern and eastern Iowa. Anybody well, give me a reason why they think that that is. We talked that the climate was ideal for grasslands in northwest Iowa. What do you think about southern and eastern Iowa? That, yeah, the topography, a lot more hills. You also have a lot more rivers. Forests love to grow around rivers. So those are two of the big reasons. Yeah, but climate's the biggest one. Forests need more water. Southern and eastern Iowa get more rain as a general rule than northwest Iowa does. So yeah, good. All right, so there's two types of forests in Iowa. You got upland, which, as you can probably guess by the name, is located above the natural floodplains. So floodplains are the flat areas adjacent to a river before you get into the hills and bluffs. So basically all of Sioux City is used to be a giant floodplain. You channelized the river, made it narrower, so now we're not, but historically that is what it is. So and then you have your bottomland, which are located within the floodplains and low-lying areas like ravines, creeks, things of that nature. So Iowa's forests are quite unique in that they vary exceedingly um, in terms of their portion of evergreen and deciduous trees and the species present from one area to another. So, some states they got forests and it's giant oak forests or all maples or only a couple trees. A lot of our forests have dozens of species of trees that all do well in them. So just like our prairies, we do not have a ton of native forest left in Iowa. We do have a fair amount, but again, we've done our best to chop a lot down back with the westward expansion, if so to say. So, good. All right. What little bonus question? Everybody, I want you to guess here. Everybody, write something down here. What do you think is the most common tree found in forests in Iowa? See if anybody knows anything about botany and trees and plants, or anybody just gets lucky. All right. Anybody? So good. It is actually the bur oak. Not a ton of bur oaks around here. There's a few in Sioux City, but they again we're not in a very high forested area, so most of them are going to be over in the eastern southern part of the state. Good. All right, so we're going to move to the next slide. Get native tree species in Iowa. Right at the top: bur oak, hackberry, swamp white oak, eastern white pine, silver maple, sugar maple, red oak, balsam fir. hmm Now, got another bonus question for you guys. Anybody know about there's a tree that's very common in Iowa. We planted it after Dutch elm disease wiped out all the Dutch trees. It was said to be invincible, and now we are in danger of losing all of this tree species in Iowa and perhaps pretty much the entire country eventually. If the little borer does its job, it's an insect. Yeah, ash trees, the emerald ash borer. It's not the borer itself, but their larvae swim around eating between the core of the tree and the bark, and slowly, basically, choke it off and kill it. So, ash borer bad. Unfortunately, we have treatments that can help save trees, but they only last for a couple years at a time, and they are not 100% effective. So, um, Don't be surprised if in the next 10 years you see a ton of trees lining the streets of Sioux City getting cut down because they're dead. So, all right, moving on. We got native wildlife species. So, birds. You guys help me with this. You guys know the birds here in Iowa. Yeah, you got goldfinch, blue jay, downy woodpecker, cardinal, chickadee, wild turkey, which is what the article we're going to be reading and working through some strategies on shortly is. Mammals. Yep, you got white-tailed deer, squirrels, raccoons, skunk, bobcats. Let's see here. Anybody think of any other birds or mammals that you find in Iowa that aren't up on the board on the board here? Yeah, blue jays. What's one? It's big one, big bird, kind of important here in our country. Yeah, bald eagle. Bald eagle is actually quite common around here nowadays. After there was a herbicide or pesticide they used back in the 80s that caused eagles and hawks to have brittle shells. Thus, populations plummeted. We got rid of it. That's why you see so many bald eagles and hawks nowadays. Is because that chemical, which escapes my mind right now, uh, it's not DET, but anyway, it's no longer used. So we have flourishing species. What about a mammal? Other mammals you can think of. Yeah, badgers. Yeah, it's a great one. Badgers are kind of one of those cool species that will actually utilize prairies and forests kind of indiscriminately. A lot of times you'll find their burrows out in fields or on the edge of timber. So, all right, moving on to the next one. We got reptiles and amphibians. Bullfrog, American toad, Fowler's toad, garter snake, bull snake. Remember I said those for prairie again. Got a lot of animal species and even plant species that will cross over between forests and prairies. There is not a hard line that says, well, this is a forest, so this species, so bullfrogs can only be here. They can't be here. Or this kind of snake. The animals don't see a hard line. So a lot of these will be in both, but some of them will, very much favor one or the other. So you also got snapping turtle. Insects, you got earthworms, land snail, monarch butterfly, grasshoppers, field cricket, box elder bug, excuse me, and the green darner dragonfly. All right. So moving on. So after we do our little reading article practice and learn about the wild turkey, we will also work on something we did a little bit last week. We did some food chains and food webs, but this time we're going to do a little group activity later in class where you guys will get to do that. But instead of just generalized animals, you're going to actually find and choose animals that are native here in Iowa. So, but good. Anybody have any questions about what we went over? Anything that's not sinking in, or they don't make sense, or they just want to see if I have some extra useless knowledge and answer for them? Good. Okay. Perfect. All right. Well, let's get on to our activity today for reading. I'll pass these out. All right. Perfect. So what we're going to do today is a strategy that we're all familiar with. We've done it before. KWL. What does it stand for? Yeah. Know, want to know, and learn. It's a fun way to read, um, learn information. Today we're going to work on it in pairs, but we'll start like we always do with the know part. So I will show out right now. I'll write down two things that I know about the wild turkey. I know that there are four major subspecies of wild turkey found in the continental United States. You have the biggest and most common, which is the eastern, most of what we have around here. Um, the more of the western half of the country, you'll find the Miriams. Right now, right here where we're at here, the Iowa, Nebraska, South Dakota junction, we're in kind of a cool area where you actually get a hybrid between an eastern and a Miriam. So instead of having the very light colored fan of a Miriam or the dark bronze of an eastern, you get kind of a mix that's kind of cool. Yep. And then down in the Texas, Oklahoma, some parts of Kansas, you get the Rio Grande. And mostly in Florida, I think a little bit in Louisiana, Alabama, Georgia, you get the Osceola, which is the smallest, smallest of the subspecies of turkeys. So that's one thing I know about them. The other cool thing I know is that you guys all know that wild turkeys almost went extinct back around the turn of the century, 1900. Like we talked about earlier, human greed. We thought they were an unlimited resources, hunted them into near extinction. Now they're, like this article is going to talk about, there are tons of them all over the place. And there was a population near Stone Park in that area, out where I actually grew up out by Stone Park. That was one of the handful of populations of eastern wild turkeys in the country that was used to collect eggs, collect turkeys, breed, and used to repopulate a good chunk of the eastern half of the United States for wild turkeys. So, all right, I want you guys to go ahead and get into pairs, somebody next to you. No moving all across the room. We're just quick here. But I want you to, in your pair, come up with two things that you know about wild turkeys. And we'll discuss here in a minute. To discuss, which obviously I can't really do with just myself here, but we would discuss what everybody knows about turkey. And now we're going to move into the W of the KWO, which is the what do you want to learn? Now this one is kind of cool. We can do it before and we can do it after. So I want you guys to come up with one thing you want to know before you read the article about the turkey. And then after we read the article, I want you to come up with another thing you want to learn about the turkey, and that I will do my best to answer those if they aren't answered by the article. So, okay, go ahead, work with your partner, read the article. It's not terribly long pages. And then we will get back to it. Other space. So, all right, everybody like the article? What you guys think? Good? Yeah, kind of. It's an interesting article. Conservation is something important to me. I like it. I think it should be important to more people. So, what are some things you guys wanted to learn about the turkey? Yeah, where they fit in the ecosystem, what they eat. Yeah, yeah, how they live, why you only see the babies in the spring. Yep, very good. All right. And now let's go to what you guys learned. What did you learn about the turkey? Again, I would field examples. Great. That is awesome. You guys did awesome. All right. So, got through that. What do you guys think of the article? Do you think it was pretty good? Good. Well, I've got a few discussion questions that I want to present to you as a class, and I want you guys to have a little debate, but keep it appropriate. We don't need to be vicious. It's just turkeys. So, all right. What were the conservation views that were presented in the article, and do you agree with them? Back and forth. What are your personal views on conservation? How many people, thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways, are big into conservation? Yeah, anybody, thumbs up if you are. Anybody that hunts, fishes probably is. And down, okay, that's fair. Everybody's got their own opinion. Hopefully, I change your mind a little bit over the course of the year. The importance of conservation, as it is critical to biology as well. All right, what do you guys think? Are the wild turkeys repopulation to I think the article said around 7 to 10 million estimated in the United States now? What do you guys think? A success story, or do you think they're a nuisance? Yeah, yeah. Most of you think it's a success story, but yeah, they can be a nuisance. They can destroy yards. They can actually chase people. My dad has been chased by a wild turkey before. I don't know why he didn't just use the shovel in his hand and hit it, but he ran away. So, all right. Now, and one other, what ways can we apply this information to current conservation efforts in our world? Yeah, yeah, good. We can analyze the restocking, rehoming program, the logistics of it, how they determine what the habitats can comfortably hold in terms of numbers without displacing yeah, good. Very good, guys. All right. So that was a great discussion, everybody. Very proud of you. You guys did great. And for the final part of today's lesson, we're going to, like I said a little bit ago, I want you guys to get into groups of 2 to 4. And I'll let you pick these. You don't have to do it with the person sitting next to you. But we are going to work on food webs. Ta-da. We handed this out earlier, but we did one last week, but it was just generalized. For this one, instead of things like, you know, frog, bird, snake, fox, I want you to actually use the proper names for the species. You don't have to use the scientific genus species, but I want you to, classify it as, red-tailed hawk, white-tailed hawk, osprey, American badger, white-tailed deer. Um, you know, don't, and I want it to be make it appropriate as well, obviously, but don't use slang like people pheasant, ringneck pheasant. A lot of guys I hunt with, a lot of people I know call them ditch chickens because that's kind of what they are. But I don't want you to use ditch chickens on your food web. I want you to use the actual name of the species. So, but I want you guys do that. I want you to at least, so I want you to do a food web for both, one for prairie, one for forest. Like I said, some of these animals might overcross, but I don't want you to copy and paste one for the other. But either using some of the pamphlets that I got out here from the DNR, or Google, or your notes, or anything else, I want you to create a food web for each. And I'll let you choose. I want you to, if you're feeling artistic, grab a piece of poster board, write the names, and then draw a sketch of the animal, or make your most artistic person draw them out. If you're not feeling artistic, use your computer, create a Word document, put the animals' names in, find a picture on Google or Yahoo or whatever search engine you want to use, put that in there, and then, create the arrows connecting everything in the way that they need to. Remember, guys, this was something that came up last time. You guys had the right connections, but a lot of you, might have had multiple insects, multiple birds, and you had the birds eating the insects, which is correct. But remember that some birds will, some animals are omnivores. They'll eat grass or plants, so they'll eat insects and other birds. So make sure you look for those connections going in multiple ways, leading all the way up to what would be considered your apex predators, which in Iowa, not a ton. Wolves, coyotes, bobcat, uh, humans ultimately. But yeah, I want you guys to work on that in your groups. And when you're done, either send it to me on Canvas or put it in the stack over here on the table. Go ahead and get started. If you need any help, just raise your hand, let me know. Getting time pass. All right, great job today, guys. Food webs look awesome. You guys did a great job listening, asking really good questions. So we're going to do our quick little review. We got about 15 minutes left, and then you guys will have time to finish up any of homework from last week or ask me any other questions you have burning about the wild turkey or conservation. So, all right, what are the new concepts that we learned today? A lot of them we revisited, but yeah, conservation, ecosystems, biodiversity, flora, fauna, but we looked at it more specifically in terms of ecosystems here in Iowa, our prairies, our forests, not just in general. So, very good. All right. What are the defining features of forests and prairies? This is pretty easy. Forests are trees and underbrush. Prairies are dominated by grasses. So good. Good. What are the main differences? In Iowa, that northwest part of the state, a lot more prairies. Southeast, you get more forests. A lot of that's due to climate and topography. So good. Any other differences? Yeah, some of them have species that are unique only to one or the other. And like I said before, a lot of the species will actually utilize both depending on what they have in their area and where their food source is. So good. What are what are natural resources? Yeah, resources that are provided by nature. Or, you know, people think natural resources, resources like oil and stuff like that, but resources are also our plants and animals. So what and we talked at the beginning here, but who wants to give me their version of why conservation is important? Very good. I love it. Yep. Because without it, we're going to kill our planet. That's a great answer. Yep. Very good. And you just read the article, but how did conservation efforts save the wild turkey from extinction? Somebody give me your synopsis of it. Kind of summarize for it. Tell me yeah, yeah, very good. They eventually recognized the problem and the government and um, members of our Department of Natural Resources team took steps and made some good decisions and worked hard, and they saved a species that is very popular in the United States. All right, final fun fact, and you've probably seen the commercials on it, but who thought that instead of the bald eagle, we should use the wild turkey as the national bird for the United States of America? Yeah, Benjamin Franklin. On that, thank you guys and have a great rest of your day.